Welcome back for another top-notch video. This week, guys, we'll be talking about the week of February, first week of February, February 1 to February 5th. As always, our top-notch channel is about the Thrift Savings Plan, or the TSP. We talk about the C, S, I, and F fund. If you're a Roth IRA or brokerage account investor, we talk about the ETFs IVV, VXF, EFA, and AGG. As always, guys, these funds up here equal the S&P 500's small caps here, international markets, and bonds. We go over these funds, kind of do a broad general overview, look at some charts from some different websites, then do a technical analysis and where the Top Notch channel is allocated. If you have questions or comments, please write them down below. As always, please like, subscribe, or share. Let's get right into the video. For this week, guys, what are we seeing? As we saw for this last week, huge numbers put up by the markets. So overall for this week, we saw markets in this single week put up a 4.6% for the C fund or the IVV or the S&P 500, 7%, over 7% for the S fund or small caps, and 2% for the I fund or international markets. Those are pretty big numbers to be putting up for the year. Let's go dive into our technical analysis and see where we are at. Overall for the year, that's where we're sitting at for each one of these funds. So very, very interesting. S fund already up 10% for the year. Pretty incredible. Let's move to our charts. As you can see here, guys, this is our kind of broad scope overview of our charts. This is the S&P 500 or the C fund. We ended up moving back down in the middle towards the end of January, bounced off that 50-day moving average, and then really decided to climb after that. So that was very interesting. These charts we get from the TSP website, TSP Talk, by the way. So if you're interested, please check them out. The S fund or small caps took a dip down to the 20-day moving average and then continued to rise after that. Been on the cusp or the top of this trading channel, and it continues to move up going forward. And then we have the I fund here, which also hit its 50-day moving average and then continued up. Almost filled this open gap here. We did beat this this trend line that was descending in a downward manner, so that is good. And we are in this box right here above the 20-day moving average in a positive light there. And then overall, we have the F fund, which came above that 50-day moving average. Did not break it, which we would like to see it do, especially being in the box here. We thought it might come up and puncture that and continue downward for the rest of the week or into February. And this downward sloping trend looks very negative in the future. Let's go over some of our funds real quick in our technical analysis, and I'll explain how we do our technical analysis. So this first fund here is going to be IVV, and what do we see with that? That is the C fund for the Thrift Savings Plan, folks. Again, this fund has just been doing very well since 2021. As you can see, we kind of bounced back at the end of January there. We're kind of in the negative of where we started the year and then really rocketed up to the top of this trend line here towards the end of this week. So very interesting to see where things go here. But the trend line's held, so that was a positive thing. Let's take a look at it from our technical analysis for IVV or the C fund. What do we like to look at on our technical analysis? Looks like a lot of numbers, a lot of things. If you're a first-time listener, the things we like to look at is we look at two technical signs. The two technical signs we look at is the derivative oscillator. So that is basically your green and red bars. When the green bars are moving up, price, which is up here, tends to move up. When the green bars are moving down into red bars, price tends to be moving down. That's our first indicator. The second indicator we like to look at is called the PPO line, and that is our price percentage oscillator. We like to look at that. That is this blue line over our moving average. When the blue line is above our moving average, price tends to go up. When it is below our moving average, price tends to go down. Based off of those two indicators, we try to make decisions on our charts of where we think things will be going in the future. So what are we seeing? We like to look at, that was another thing, sorry about that, guys. We like to look at weekly charts. So we have weekly charts, which is our long-term charts, and short-term charts. So what are we seeing on our weekly long-term charts for IVV or the C fund? As you can see, guys, our derivative oscillator, those green bars have really dropped off here the last couple of weeks. And so that's been make us kind of cautious the last couple of weeks of being involved in the S&P 500 funds. And our PPO line even last week dropped down below. But price continues to hold on here. It's kind of been stagnant for about 3 weeks. Kind of stayed about the same since January 22nd. So very interesting. Had a big spinning top last week, and now we have a green spinning top this week. We'll have to wait and see where things go from here. But we're planning on getting involved in this fund once we see these indicators start to change. Again, this PPO line has not crossed yet, and we are moving down on our derivative oscillator. So this is kind of a red sign for us to stay out of funds. If we're looking at a stoplight, green, yellow, or red, this is kind of red. Watch the fund and see what happens in the future. On a short-term basis for IVV, so this is small-term charts, really good things here. We popped above on the 2nd of February with our PPO line. Our derivative oscillator kind of gave us signals towards February 1st in the beginning of this week. So those are two positive signs. So for a short-term basis, this would have been a good jump in towards the beginning of the month if you are in those TSP or Roth IRA brokerage accounts fund. And it really did rise quite significantly for that week. Let's move on to our second fund. What is VXF? This is small caps, the S fund for those involved in the TSP or Thrift Savings Plan. Look at the jump here, guys. Really came down here, hit this trend line quite hard. It held very well and then bounced off that and really came up. If you saw what we had for the month, or for the week, guys, we were up 7.5% for this fund. Pretty significant jump for the S fund and small caps, really rocketing off here. We are now back at the trend line here, waiting to see if we can bust out of that. We have not ever since this trend line's been drawn, which was October time frame. So we'll have to wait and see on that for VXF or small caps. For the technical analysis for this chart, if we look at long-term charts, we look at the exact same patterns and signals. What are we seeing? Look at these derivative oscillator. Really has dropped off here, guys. Price has not reacted to that. So that's a kind of an interesting sign. That's not something we normally see with our derivative oscillator in our charts. And our PPO line has continued to remain above. So this is a yellow light or a caution. Watch the fund. We did see this spinning top last week, so we were not interested in getting involved with it last week just to kind of see where things would go. And with the bounce, pretty significant that this fund will continue to rise. But again, this fund's been pretty much for the last 3 weeks kind of just stagnant of where it's been at. Not a lot of rise from the last 3 weeks. On a short-term basis, what are we seeing? As you can see, we have a green light here for the short-term basis. We saw our kind of signal on the very 1st of February, right towards the end of the month of January to get involved. PPO line crossed on the 2nd of February. This is a green go sign for a short-term basis for VXF. But we want to see those long-term charts switch over before the Top Notch channel just gets involved. We just don't have a position right now, but really good movement upward on VXF. Moving on to international markets. This is EFA or the I Fund. The I Fund did bounce off its trend line down here this last week, right before January. Creaked up a little bit, but we're still sitting below that 20-day moving average. Might have a little resistance there, but a lot of space up here overall for EFA. We'll have to wait and see where that goes. On a technical analysis, again, same type of principles and charts that we use. As you can see, EFA also just moved into its negative territory here. That is not a good sign there. PPO line is right along the edge there. That will make it a yellow light or proceed with caution for EFA for right now. Price has been stagnant like for about 4 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. Been pretty stagnant for about 5 weeks there, so it hasn't really moved. Kind of wait and see where that goes. Kind of playing it cautious on a short-term basis. This chart is a green light. It is a go. Kind of saw our signal towards the beginning of February as well and kind of bounced off that and continued up ever since the beginning of February. Our last chart, guys, is AGG or bonds. What are we seeing? Like we mentioned last week and the week prior and the week prior after that, guys, this chart has been in a long decline since basically August. We had those kind of highs there, and it's been in a decline ever since. We are now below all of our moving averages, and we are now testing these lower trend lines here. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Based off of our technical charts, we could see some trouble with this fund for AGG. And with AGG, long-term charts, what are we seeing? Something very interesting here happened with AGG. So we have the same type of principles here. As you can see, our derivative oscillator was dropping negative 2.76, bounced up to negative 2.72. That's a good sign. But then this last week dropped back down. That's very negative, very bearish sign there. And our PPO is red as well. So that is a stoplight red. Do not want to be involved in AGG at this time. Fund continues to move downward for the time being on the long-term charts. Short-term charts, we are seeing a little bit of positive here. Our derivative oscillator is moving up a little bit here, but the PPO line is still below. So it's a cautious stay out of fund until we can see some change in here. Look at this dramatic drop here since the beginning of February. has not been able to recover. So that is not a good sign for AGG. Would want to stick out of that for now. That brings us to the Top Notch channel. Where do we sit? What have we been doing? For us on this channel, we've been outside of all the funds since pretty much the beginning of the year. Been sitting in cash or the G fund for those in the TSP account, kind of looking to see where funds will go. Really itching to get in, but just don't see a position. We could have possibly gone on a short-term position earlier this month, especially since we had moves, but we did not take it. We're kind of waiting for those long-term charts to change around on our equity funds. That's the CS or I fund. Have not really seen that on the long-term charts just yet, so we are sitting in cash or the G fund, waiting for that to turn around or waiting for a decent drop. We had that at the end of January. Should have taken the bait, but we did not do it. If you guys have questions or concerns, please write those in the comments below. Really appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. That's another top-notch video. We'll see you guys next time.